that person to this congregation for us to minister to. And our attitude has been, whoever God sends us, we try to work with and take them under our wing and hope we can spiritually strengthen them and not kill ourselves off in the process. Right, Marley?
Right.
The area of character is going to be a series. And it's going to be based on, we're going to look at the qualifications for elders and deacons, and we're not looking for elder and deacon recruits necessarily, but looking at the character and the quality and the inner being, the inner qualities that deal with the qualifications of elders and deacons. And then each of these, sometimes we'll do one, sometimes we'll do two and three. But Glenn and I are going to go through these various character qualities and deal with them. It's been said that the character of a nation is determined by the character of its individual citizens. Character influences every facet of life. Character will influence the productivity of industry. Character will influence the might of its military. Character will be the strength of its society. Character will be the purity of its morals, and character determines the caliber of its economics. Character determines the integrity of its politics, and character determines the hope of its future, and character is the potential of its destiny. All rests upon the religious character of a nation's people. Bob Jones once said, "Reputation is what men think you are. Character is what God knows you are." Their secret faults, Bob Harrington said, are the termites of character. Character is always lost when a high ideal is sacrificed on the altar of conformity and popularity. It's been said that character is not an outward garment or an outward appearance, but an inner something from the heart. Character is experienced in every temptation, active in every thought, effectual in every attitude, present in every decision, and behind every action. There's good character and bad character. A person is weak charactered when they have no values or have no eternal purpose in life, or are indecisive or double-minded or carnal instead of spiritual, or worldly minded instead of heavenly minded. A person is strong charactered when they live a life consistent with God's will. What is character? Character is called the quality of our life. It's a quality that is seen, that's sown into the very fiber of our mind and our soul. Only in the church can we see Christian character built into the lives of His people. The church ministers to the family, and the family ministers to the individual. The church cannot build character into the individual without the support of the family, nor can the family build character without the support of the church. Character training and responsibility of character training was turned over to the government some years ago, and with a negligent church and a negligent home, a generation with very little character exists. Now it's kind of interesting as we consider these particular scripture. 1 Timothy 3:1 through 13 says, "Here's a trustworthy saying, if anyone sets his heart on being an overseer," King James says elder, other translations render this bishop, "he desires a noble task." Now the overseer, it says, must be above reproach, the husband of one wife, temperate, self-controlled, respectable, hospitable, able to teach, not given to drunkenness, not violent, but gentle, not quarrelsome, not a lover of money. He must manage his own family well and see that his children obey him with proper respect. If anyone does not know how to manage his own family, how can he take care of God's church? He must not be a recent convert, verse 6, and he may be conceited and fall into the same judgment as the devil. He must also have a good reputation with outsiders so that he will not fall into disgrace and into the devil's trap. Deacons likewise are to be men worthy of respect, sincere, not indulging in much wine, and not pursuing dishonest gain. They must keep hold of the deep truths of the faith with clear conscience. They must first be tested. And then he says, off my screen, they must first be tested and then given that responsibility. In the same way, their wives. You know, it's interesting when he talks about the qualifications of elders and deacons. The wife reflects upon, behind every great man is a greater woman. The wife is the support. In the same way, their wives are to be women worthy of respect, not malicious talkers, but temperate and trustworthy in everything. A deacon must be the husband of but one wife, must manage his children and his household well. Those who have served well gain an excellent standing and great assurance in the faith of Christ. Jesus answered, here's the thought we have. Now, back here, it says the elder must be. Some have gone through and said, well, these are God's suggestions for a godly man to be a leader in the church. Or these are high aspirations, or these are kind of way up here and we're way down here and we aspire to them but we'll never reach those. But I wondered, I was sharing with my wife earlier this morning, what has happened to the character of our society where we're diluting the standards that used to be high standards, and we're diluting these all down and say, well, you know, the old days it used to be the old farmers say cock-a-doodle-doo, and the old patriots say Yankee-doodle-doo, and some ladies will say any old doodle-doo. You wonder about that as far as you know, developing character and whatever. But the interesting thing is this word must be is a three-letter word, dei, D-E-I, in the original language. And it's kind of interesting in how this particular verse is used. Here it says, Jesus answered, "I tell you the truth that no one can enter the kingdom of God unless he's born of the water and the Spirit. Flesh gives birth to flesh, Spirit gives birth to spirit. And you should not be surprised at my saying, you must be born again." John chapter 3, verse 5. Now in the Greek, he's got the me thaumases hati epon soy. Here's the word dei, D-E-I. Humas genethenai on othing. John 3:7. But this little word dei is this word must be. And the interesting thing, when he says you must be born again in John chapter 3:7, in the Latin Vulgate, for our Catholic friends, it says non meris quia dixi tibi portet vos nasci, Latin Vulgate. And here's the Greek. And here's dei sun ton episkopon. And here we have this particular word here. This is the Greek, this is the Latin. And the only reason I throw this out, you only pull this out once every 50 years, Glory, to let them know you know doofus. You gotta let them know you know dummy. How often do you use it? About once every 4 years, but at least let them know, you know, we can do it if we have to. But here's the word dei. It's translated, it's necessary, there's need of, or it behooves, it's right and proper. It's necessity lying in the nature of the case. Necessity brought on by circumstance or by the conduct of others toward us. Necessity in reference to what is required to attain some end. Necessity of law and command of duty and equity. Necessity established by the counsel and decree of God, especially by that purpose of his which relates to the salvation of men by the intervention of Christ, and which is disclosed in the Old Testament prophecies concerning what Christ was destined finally to undergo, his suffering, death, burial, and resurrection, ascension. The King James word uses the word dei. It's translated at 106 times, must 58 times. Glenn. Ought 31 times, must needs 5 times, should 4, miscellaneous 7, and ought 1 time. So we have must or ought or must needs. So when we deal back to an elder, should, could, have order, no, he uses the word must. And so these are qualities for the elders. Now in the beginning of the church we had 3 of us elders. 2 have retired, married 60 years, married 48 years, married, how many years, Morty?
Almost 60.
Almost 60 years. And so we're looking at our elders as being husbands of one wife, and they were. And this was a situation where as our elders get older and older and older and older, then they retire at 80 and 83. Do we panic and say we got to get elders tomorrow? We go back to the ministry system until we have qualified leaders to once more have a good eldership. Meanwhile, we plug everybody into, and Morgan's being plugged into, heading up prayer when Morgan's not here. He's substitute taught classes, and he's heading up building and grounds and other things. Dan's been our right-hand man as far as in teaching in Jamaica in the college classes, and he also teaches the same courses here at Northside. And Dan has been a capable and competent teacher. And so we're developing and tapping into the talent that happens to be here. Now, we're dealing with character, and in dealing with character, first of all, we want to share with you one area of character is integrity in time of war. You know, this is Queen Elizabeth. And you didn't know that Queen Elizabeth in World War II was a mechanic and a driver. She started at the bottom and worked her way up. And I know when Prince Charles was going into the service, they wanted to be careful he didn't get captured by the bad guys. So they said, you're not flying. He'd like to fly, but they said, you're not flying because they shoot you down, capture you, they'll hold you hostage to the nation of England. And so they had some of the ideas as far as position and whatever. But here's a lady became queen, and she's a woman of character and integrity. Here, how we treat our dead, no man left behind. And this has been an area of character in military, that they do not leave their best behind, they bring them back and bury them in Arlington. Now this is an interesting thing. For those who depose the symbol cross in our society, let them go to Arlington Cemetery and tear down all those crosses. You know, there gets a cross in public places and crosses up on mountainsides and hillsides because it's on public property, tear the cross down. Well, this is some crosses that aren't going to be torn down. This was a story that Morgan shared with us. This one guy was a German pilot, and he shot this one plane. This plane was tripping along, and so the German actually gave him an escort out of German airspace. And he, according to the rules of some war, if a guy's coming down in a parachute, you're supposed to let the guy land safely so he can fight another day. But any guy in World War I that would shoot a pilot in his parachute was despicable. You just didn't do that. That was unethical when it came to the jousting knights. We shot you down, you parachute down, you fight again for another day. Well, this man was of the old school thinking that he escorted, as long as his fighter Messerschmitt was there, the Germans would not shoot at this plane. He didn't know once he got this plane out of German airspace whether they'd even survive. And later on, the American pilot and gained contact with the other, and they became best friends and fishing buds. You know, that's the rest of the story. Where these two men were jousting knights in World War II, and after World War II they became fishing buds. And they were men of character. They were true warriors that fought with a certain area of fairness in war. It's been said in the fight for freedom, never question who is the last line of freedom's defense. It is all of us. Now it's kind of interesting if we deal with the ISIS characters. It says, don't worry, only 5 to 10% of the Muslims are extremists. So you don't have to worry about the Muslims, really. Well, in 1940, only 7% of the Germans were Nazis. And it says, how did that turn out? Morgan, I'm just throwing this in for your benefit. I've had some folks say, you know, we get tired of Morty and Morgan getting up there in their soapbox and talking about politics and talking about how America's going to hell in a handbasket and all this other stuff. And I told the individual, I says, your soapbox is getting on your soapbox, talking about everybody getting up on their soapboxes. And anyway, but I'm on my soapbox this morning as far as when it deals with, you know, the President of the United States has allowed more and more Islam people come into this country. And it's been said that 40 and 50 years ago, we as a church did not send missionaries over to those lands to bring Christianity to them. Since we didn't, God is bringing them over to our country so we can bring Christianity to them. So let's turn this whole thing around. If they're going to come into our country, we're not going to be bashful for our faith just because a person's got a towel wrapped around their head. You know, it just happens to be what it happens to be. We need to be bold for our faith in Jesus Christ. And this says, well, don't worry about the Muslim extremists. Well, let's become extreme Christians with these Muslim extremists and get in their face once in a while instead of them getting in ours. Here's the interesting thing is, I had this picture taken of one of our major cities. And remember ISIS, when it started cutting off heads and took all these children and started kidnapping these kids and raping these women and all? Now, this was the American Muslims, and this is an actual picture of their demonstration against ISIS. You notice how many there are?
None.
One in the
None.
crosswalk down there at the bottom.
Is there one person down here in the
Right
crosswalk?
there,
Right in
right
the crosswalk.
Right here?
Right over the
Yeah,
middle,
right
in
in
the
the
middle.
middle, in the
Bishop.
middle,
Right
Right
there,
here.
right there.
Okay, so here's the American Muslims demonstrating against ISIS. I'm just throwing that in to tell you how ridiculous it is. You got these guys burning cities down because a cop arrests a kid for old hood, and then they make the cops look bad because the cops trying to maintain safety for general public. Here's interesting is that this beheading should really get the president's attention. Gonna caught off the top of his golf club. I'm just throwing that in for Morty and Morgan for no other reason, but just throw it in there. You got to keep some of your members happy enough to say, well, at least the preacher gets up, speaks up, shuts up once in a while on certain topics. It's interesting that Golda Meir, who was Prime Minister of Israel, says peace will come when the Arabs will love their children more than they hate us. And after the Arab kids are killing and the Jewish kids are dead, they're destroying their entire next generation. And it's an attitude, they said the difference between Christianity and Islam is Islam will send their children wrapped with bombs to die for Allah. Whereas in Christianity, God sent His Son to die on the cross for us. And that's the difference in our God. Our God sends His Son to die, and in Islam, they send their sons to die. And that's the difference between the two religions. Now, these are some passages of Scripture in Psalms. Lord, who may dwell in your sanctuary, who may live in your holy hill? He who walks is blameless, and who does what is righteous, and who speaks the truth from his heart, and has no slander on his tongue, and who does his neighbor no wrong, and casts no slur on his fellow man, who despises a vile man, but honors those who fear the Lord, who keeps his oath even when it hurts, who lends his money without usury and does not accept a bribe against the innocent. He who does these things will never be, and Glenn, you cut me off. Psalm 23, 24, 3 and 5. Who may ascend the mountain of the Lord? Who may stand in his holy place? He who has clean hands and pure heart, who does not trust in an idol or swear by a false god. They receive blessings from the Lord. Now, this is what we want to share. Integrity and character. We talked about the integrity in wartime, and integrity in dealing with protecting your nation, protecting our freedoms. But here's another area of character, and that is integrity in caring for the children, and that is caring for our next generation. People are worried about Social Security, that it doesn't have the funds coming in to support the next generation of seniors coming to retire. You know why the funds are not there in the Social Security account to support the next generation? Is because that generation killed all their children. And, grandchildren are God's blessing for not killing your children. I mean, they are. If you kill your children, you won't have grandkids.
Right.
And this is an area when we talk about integrity, about caring for our children, the next generation. Now, it's crazy about our laws we have in our country that they protect the eagle. And bald eagle eggs are protected by law. You mess up with those eggs, you go to jail for a long time busting up bald eagle eggs. Or if you shoot an eagle, you're in deep, deep, deep trouble. But human beings aren't protected by law. This is, I'm going to say, abortion logic 101. Now, Proverbs 6:17 says, hands that shed innocent blood. In this blunt context, there's a brief catalog of traits which the holy God of heaven abhors. One of these is hands that sheds innocent blood. It says there are 6 things which God hates, yea, 7, which are an abomination unto him. Haughty eyes, a lying tongue, hands that shed innocent blood, a heart that devises wicked purposes, feet that are quick to running to mischief, a false witness, and the one that's cut off, and he that soweth discord among his brethren. It's a 6+. Glenn did a reformat on my slides and cut them off. But you'll just have to fill me in on the verse section I miss out on, Glenn.
And a person who stirs up conflict in the community.
Okay. It's we call this 6 sins plus tax. And it's kind of interesting that God hates all kinds of things and all the meanness. And God says, the tongue causes more trouble in the church than sexual immorality. It causes more trouble than other things. But he does deal with, in Proverbs 6:17, hands that shed innocent blood. Now here we have, this baby was created in the image of God. And here just about a month ago, the abortion clinics were selling baby parts to the clinics, for experimentation. Now we talk about this and they said, this is serious. Oh no, we were just talking about it. We just weren't really doing it and blah, blah, blah. In China today, people are bred for becoming organ donors. They're herded like cattle, treated like cattle, and if we need your heart, we need your lung, we need your kidney, we will kill you while you're still alive, we'll take the kidney out and then euthanize you. So in China, in its atheistic system, they actually grow people for harvesting organs. I mean, it's like 1984, it's like George Orwell's science fiction stuff. But in the atheistic communist China, human life has no value but what it can pay back to society. And here in America, hands that shed innocent blood. They're looking at babies as spare parts. How many millions of babies have died since Roe versus Wade?
56 million.
56 million.
Plus.
56 million, which is probably about 1/6 of our society, 1/6 of our nation's population. It's kind of interesting too. I didn't know this, but bonding experts say that babies' heads give off pheromones. You didn't know that's not talcum baby powder, but babies' heads give off sweet baby smell. Yeah, and because of the baby smell, when we inhale the baby smell, we fall in love and begin to feel protective. The more your older child snuggles the new sibling, the better their relation is likely to be. So I didn't know big sisters and little baby brothers can get along if they learn to cuddle their little brother because of the sweet smell coming from the baby pheromones causing love. Now we're going to deal with another area of integrity. Somebody needs some new furniture. I found this piece of furniture laying on the side of the road. No, really, that bench we got in the back porch here, I found it sitting inside the road and for the dump people to pick it up, and it matched the one in the front, and so we brought it home and Sandy painted it, and we got it sitting back here and put a few screws in it, and it might last for another season. But I'm thinking about we need to install this in a lot of living rooms for the lounge lizards that need to get up and do some chores. But this would get your attention, wouldn't it, Julie? This is comfortable furniture.
Yeah, it looks real good.
But we're talking about integrity in times of war. We're talking about integrity in dealing with our children, our future generation. Now I'm going to deal with integrity and character in everyday life. I'm going to share with you what I will scratch my head whether I'll share with you or not share with you, but maybe I've earned your trust to be frank with you. It says it's only a matter of time until security cameras at Walmart is a hit reality show, and I'll tell you why. This is Seen at Walmart. How many have ever seen these things on the internet on Seen at Walmart? Have you ever seen those? Yeah. All right, for those that haven't, we are going to share with you here at Northside Christian Church what is actually seen at Walmart. Okay. And now you know why Sharon shops Publix, and doesn't shop Walmart. You'll never see anything like this at Publix, will you, Sharon? But as we go along, I'm going to show you American society as it really is seen at Walmart.
Oh my God.
Yeah, you got to believe this. Okay, now you've got to have piggyback tandem riding through the aisles going shopping. And I like her dress. It looks like, is she in shorts or is she in something else? Okay, here it is, guys. Now, I'm not going to pick on the ladies. This is the men. Can you imagine a man in high heels? And of course he is, now you talk about short long pants and long short pants. Have you ever seen anything like this at Publix, Sharon? Never seen anything like this at Publix.
See it at Walmart.
But this is Walmart. I'm sorry, this is Walmart. Okay, here we are, Walmart. Walmart shoppers, blue light special, Yeah, it's gotta be Kmart, can't be Walmart, right?
I don't know.
Look at the hair. And she is wearing pants underneath everything, but look at the hair. Beautiful lady. Here's,
Oh, man.
I guess, I don't know if he bought it back in sporting goods and he's taking up the cash register to ring it out, or what he's doing, but this really makes you feel safe going to your local Walmart store, needing this as you're going down the aisle. Okay, and then sometimes we leave Walmart with a little bit of, we got to give Sam Walton his due. Sometimes Walmart can get very romantic. And here's a couple planning to get married. And you wonder, you can get married in the strangest places, but here the honeymooning couple is getting their picture taken. I don't know if they just had the wedding and they're getting last minute stuff before they go on the honeymoon, or whether they're planning to go to the wedding. How up there? So they think they bought the rings. Okay, there we go. But I'm going to say only at Walmart. Now, I want to talk about integrity. We're talking about everyday integrity. In Pennsylvania, one of our elders used to work at the, Elder Chester Hawk. Worked at the voting, did what my wife does, works there at the voting precinct. He says, in time past, and this was Teamsters Union, we voted a lot of votes. We cast a lot of votes. We went down the cemetery and voted a lot of people for the people that the Teamsters wanted to get voted in. They went from tombstone to tombstone and voted the dead. And I'm not kidding you. If I'm lying, I'm dying. He said we did that in the early days of the Teamsters, the coal mine, just to get our guy in to favor the coal miners. Now, this came up on the internet. This is a new effort attempted in Chicago to stop the dead from voting. So we didn't have this in Pennsylvania, but in Chicago, Illinois, Al Capone, was this Al Capone City? Mafia headquarters.
Yep.
So now we're getting into American politics. And this is where you get mudslinging. And here Florida's going through redistricting everything. And they were just wondering who's going to cut this. Now we're going to say, okay, we want this group here, we're going to cordon them off, and we're going to get this other group, and we're going to make sure that our guy gets elected next time by changing around the voting precincts. And this is the area of, we're back to character and integrity. We used to have on the sidewalks of Orlando, written by the Kiwanis Rotary Club, it had carved into the sidewalk, it says, if you don't vote, don't what?
Don't.
Gripe.
That's true.
If you don't vote, don't gripe. And that was in the sidewalks there 50 years ago in Orlando. And you have a chance, if you do vote, at least you have the privilege of criticizing the guy that's in there or not in there. Now if you don't vote, you have no business opening up your mouth at all. Because if you don't vote, you don't gripe. I do the same thing in spiritual things. Somebody says, why did you send mission money to that guy down on that island and such and put a roof on his church building? Now when you got on the island, didn't he come in and just chew you out? Who gave you the right to come to my island and preach among the churches and this is my island and you have no business coming to my island without my permission and you're going to ruin it for everybody and your best thing to go back home and whatever. And I told our mission team, says, do you like this guy over there? I said, no, not at all. He's not really my favorite guy. We did go out to Kentucky Fried and fed him some Kentucky Fried Chicken while we're there. But his roof got blown off during a hurricane and he needs a roof on his church building. So we sent him about $3,000 to put a roof on his church building from the mission department. And somebody says, well, why in the world did you do that? I says, well, if you support somebody and pray for somebody, then you have the right to criticize them. If you don't pray for them, you don't support them, then you don't have the right to criticize him. So for the funds we sent down to fix that roof in that church building, I'm reserving that right here later in life to criticize the person being a hard-nosed, old-school guy that... the reason he was mad is back in 1960, Valerie, somebody came up to his wife and said she's going to hell because she had lipstick on. And because I went to the same school that lady had gone to, therefore I've got to be the same one that told her in 1960 that she's going to hell because, here it is, 40 years later, 35, 40 years later, and some zealous person stuck their finger in this lady's nose because she's wearing too much paint. And then here it is, years later. The guy says, you have no business on my island. But anyway, character. Anyway, okay, I was getting gas. I was going down to pick up Valerie today, and I stopped by the gas station, and here a guy steps out the car, and his pants are clean on down below, and the first thing he does, he hikes them up. And I'm saying, you know, do I go up to this gentleman who's an African-American descent and tell him, pull up your britches? I don't think, you know, if the guy has a switchblade knife, he might do a little number on me. And so he may carve his initials in my chest as well as my throat. So sometimes you bite your tongue. But there's a guy came up with a song that talked about long short pants and short long pants. Now, are these long short pants or are these short long pants? And this was reflective of young people coming to high school, coming up with this stupid droopy drawers and wanting to show off their trousers. And I don't know whether we need to issue suspenders to these fat guys that can't keep their pants up, or whether we need to get a slingshot and pop it with some birdshot. You know, we see something like that.
They actually make them and sell them that way.
They make them and sell them exactly like that. Okay, see, this is where the market say, okay, we got a market. So this shows the character of the fabric industry and the fashion industry. If kids are going to wear, they're going to shred their brand new blue jeans with the knees sticking out, we're going to sell them shredded now. And they do. They get more money for them too. But then this dress attire, from what they tell me, comes from the prisons, and it's an advertisement that I'm homosexual. I didn't know that. Somebody had to inform me because I'm dumb. You know, I'm naive. I don't have all the answers to all this other stuff. But all I know is Droopy Drawers needs to pull up his trousers.
Amen.
And it's time, you know, this is the character of a nation, how public dress, public decency and indecency, public modesty and immodesty, public speech, and people in their language and public language. You just tell sometimes some folks that says, I hope you don't wake up with a mouthful of the stuff that your mouth's spitting out right now. Just nasty, nasty mouth.
Disgusting.
Now, this is what's happened in a character integrity. This is Atlanta, Georgia. Now, I trained my kids, I thought I trained them up well, until I went to Atlanta, Georgia. And my daughter-in-law, she's a tiny little thing. She's, you know, smaller than Valerie. And she's packing heat now. I mean, she's packing. She goes down the gun range and bam, 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 you know, with the best stuff. My son's been mugged in a gated community taking the trash out to the dumpster. He's packing heat. He's still in Atlanta, Georgia. The other son, who's a chief finance officer, he's packing heat. And you wonder what has happened to the integrity of our nation, the fabric of our society, where it's Dodge City. You know, Kissimmee used to be like Dodge City. That was a cowboy town. And there used to be gunfights at OK Corral down in Kissimmee, Florida, in St. Cloud. And it was a shooting up town. You'd come in off the range and those guys would shoot up the town. You hate to have to be packing heat, but I don't know, it says the gun in the hand is better than a cop on the phone. And if that lady pulls that particular gun out, it did happen in a store. This one guy came in and said, this is a stick-up, and the guy that was at the counter was the fastest gun in the West. He pulled his gun and shot him between the eyes, just as sense as this is a stick-up, bam! And the bad guy was on the floor dead, with a hole in his head. But this is our society we're in today. Do we feel safe? Yes, no, maybe. Now, we're dealing with leadership. It says, the elders, I left you at Crete, that you might put in order that which was unfinished, and appoint elders in every town as I directed. An elder must be blameless, faithful to his wife, a man whose children believe, and are not open to the charge of being wild and disobedient. Since an overseer manages God's household, he must be blameless, not overbearing, not quick-tempered, not given to drunkenness, not violent, not pursuing dishonest gain. He also says, verse 8, rather he must be hospitable, one who loves what is good, who is self-controlled, upright, holy, and disciplined. He must hold firmly to the trustworthy message as it has been taught, so that he can encourage others by sound doctrine and refute those who oppose it. These books of Timothy and Titus are full of character traits that are dealing with what we're talking about, integrity, where we're dealing with character. And here's another. For if there are many rebellious people full of meaningless talk and deception, especially those of the circumcision group, they must be silenced, because they're disrupting the whole household by teaching things they ought not to teach, and that for the sake of dishonest gain. One of Crete's own prophets has said that the Cretans are liars, brutes, and slow bellies, lazy gluttons. Now, what a reputation you have for somebody from Crete. Everybody from that island is a bunch of liars, brutes, and gluttons. Now, how would you like to have that as a reputation? I'm from, I'm from Lakeland, Florida. Oh, Lakeland, that's a bunch of, liars and brutes and gluttons. That'd be horrible. Wouldn't that be a reputation to stand down? But here's a reputation they had. He says, therefore rebuke them sharply, so that they will be of sound faith. Titus chapter 1. And pay no attention to Jewish myths or to the merely human commands of those who reject the truth. To the pure, all things are pure, but to those who are corrupted and do not believe, nothing's pure. In fact, both their minds and consciences are corrupted. And they claim to know God, but by their actions they deny Him. They are detestable, disobedient, and unfit for doing anything good. But we've been dealing this morning with character, quality, and the area of integrity. And we dealt with integrity in the military. We're doing integrity as far as dealing with the next generation children. And they were dealing with integrity in everyday life, whether it's in shopping Walmart or wearing long short pants or short long pants. I mean, these are consideration. But we want to close with this one thought in the fabric of our society. It's a shame, it's a rotten shame, that anytime somebody goes directly to jail, they do not pass go, they do not collect $200, and one of the first things they issue out to them is their Bible. They have lots of downtime and lots of reading time. But at the same time, the kids aren't allowed to read the Bible in school. In the old days, the Gideon Bible people come out and hand out New Testament, Psalm, Proverbs, everybody at the schoolhouse. And that was the fabric of. The good thing happened here recently. One of the bands was playing a gospel hymn, and the power to be says this is a violation of church and state separation. Therefore, the band is commanded to cease and desist, or we will have the coach arrested, or whatever the band leader will be arrested for showing faith. So, and this was in Mississippi, Valerie?
Yeah, Brandon, Mississippi.
Brandon, Mississippi. I don't know how many thousands of people were in the bleachers, but they all started singing that hymn. The entire nation started singing the God-honoring hymn in the bleachers. Now, I tell you this to tell you this. When they make bad laws, good people aren't going to keep them. They aren't going to keep them.
That's right.
It's just, we are going to be just as rebellious and as the next one is, as far as you can shove this stuff in our face. We are law-abiding people. We live in peaceful with all men. But then we sometimes have to join Popeye and say, enough is enough. I stood it so much I can't stand it no more. And we're going to make a difference. So this is our area of beginning as we consider in the next weeks ahead, dealing with character and the character traits, and developing within integrity, and seeing how God views these things from a biblical standpoint. We want to have our closing song, Glenn.